Good morning, my dear children. In the previous video, you learnt about the town planning of the Indus Valley civilization. You studied that the Indus Valley people constructed dockyards, granaries, warehouses, flat roofed brick houses, protective walls, etc. But there were no monuments or buildings of historical importance in the Indus Valley cities. The Indus Valley people also constructed roads, and there existed different types of houses on both sides of the streets. Okay children, you learned all these things in our previous video. I hope that all of you read your book and you understood the topic clearly. Now in this class we are going to discuss about the topic citadel. Children, this is a new term for you, citadel. What's the meaning of a citadel? See, a citadel is a fort in a ground, that means in an upper ground, high ground in a city. Citadel is a fort in the high ground. Of a city. So citadel is a fort. Okay children, you know that forts are also historical monuments. You have learnt about different types of forts, the important forts in a country. Anyway, here citadel is a fort in the high ground of a city where people could go in times of attack or war. Clear children, see, this type of citadels or forts were constructed for a purpose that the people could go there in times of attack from outside. If there is war from any other country or place, these people could go to the citadel or the fort in the high ground. Okay, so now we will study about the citadels of Indus Valley cities. Okay, so the Indus Valley cities had two parts, the citadel in the west and the lower city in the east. So which are the two parts of the Indus Valley cities? First, the citadel in the west and lower city in the east. So these were the two parts of Indus Valley city. So children, which were the two parts of the Indus Valley cities? The citadel and the lower city. The citadel in the west and lower city in the east. So the Indus Valley cities had two parts, the citadel and the lower city. The citadel in the west and lower city in the east. Okay, the citadel was a fortress type building or a construction. Citadel was a fortress type construction in the west of the city and was constructed on a raised platform made of mud and bricks. See children, the citadel was constructed on a raised platform of mud and bricks. A raised platform of mud and bricks. Listen, the Indus Valley cities had two parts, citadel and the lower city. Citadel in the west and lower city in the east. As you know, citadel is a fort in the high ground of a city. So, the citadel in the Indus Valley cities were constructed on a raised platform, an elevated platform. The platform was made of mud and bricks. Platform was made of mud and bricks. Clear? So which are the two parts of the Indus Valley cities, children? Yes, the citadel and the lower city. The citadel and the lower city are the two parts of the Indus Valley cities. You know that citadel is the upper part, or it was constructed on a raised platform made of mud and bricks, and the lower city surrounded the citadel. Clear? The lower city surrounded the citadel. So, you learnt there were two parts in the Indus Valley cities, the citadel and the lower city. The meaning of citadel is a fort in the high ground of a city. So, what is a citadel? A citadel is a fort. A citadel is a fort which is constructed in the high ground of a city. So, here the Indus Valley cities, citadels were constructed in a raised platform of mud and bricks. Clear? And the citadel was surrounded by the lower city. Okay, children, is it clear? The citadel was surrounded by what? Citadel was surrounded by the lower city. The citadel in the west, it was constructed on a raised platform of mud and bricks. There were many buildings in the citadel. The Indus Valley people constructed many buildings in the citadel. And which were they? Public buildings, especially public buildings, banks, granaries, houses of important persons were constructed in the citadel. So children, listen, which were the important constructions in the citadel? Public buildings. Public buildings. Then granaries. You learned that granaries were the storehouses for grains. Granaries. Then baths. Baths here means swimming pools. In the last video we discussed about the large baths constructed by the Indus Valley people, which were mainly used for religious purposes. So baths, then houses of importance or quarters of important persons. Quarters of important persons were constructed in the citadel. See children, listen. Public buildings, granaries, baths and quarters of important persons were constructed in the citadel. You know that it is the upper portion of the city. The citadel was the upper part of the city, and there was a lower city also. The citadel was constructed on a raised platform made of mud and bricks. And there were many buildings in the citadel. Which were the buildings in the citadel? Especially public buildings, granaries. You know, granaries were the storehouses for grains. Then baths means large swimming pools. Again, quarters of important persons were constructed in the citadel. Okay, within the citadel. All these buildings were built within the citadel. Clear children, you know the citadel and the lower city. There are two parts in the Indus Valley cities, the citadel and the lower city. You know that citadel is a fort in the high ground of a city. Citadel is a fort in the high ground of a city. In the Indus Valley cities, there were citadel and lower city. The citadel was constructed in a raised platform of mud and bricks, and many buildings were there in the citadel, such as public buildings, granaries, baths and quarters of important persons. All these were constructed in the citadel. A wall surrounded the citadel and contained notches from which people could look out and defend the area. See children, a wall was constructed that surrounded the citadel. A protective wall was constructed that surrounded the citadel. In the previous video also we discussed that there were protective walls made of bricks. The strong protective walls were constructed by the Indus Valley people. Here also, the citadel was surrounded by a protective wall. A strong protective wall was constructed around the citadel, and there were notches. Children, the meaning of notches is holes or openings through which people could look outside and they could defend their city in times of external invasion or attack from outside. Clear, children? So, if there is the threat of external invasion or invasion from any other country or any other kingdom, the people could look out through the notches in the protective walls and they could defend their city. They could protect their city. So there were notches or small openings in the protective walls through which people could look outside for the protection of their city. They could defend their city in times of external attack. Okay, so there were protective walls in the citadel. That means the citadel was surrounded by a strong protective wall with notches. Clear? Notches means holes or openings through which people could look outside in times of external invasion, and they could defend their city. They could defend their city. Clear? So, protective walls were constructed around the citadel. Protective walls were constructed that surrounded the citadel, and these protective walls had notches or holes through which people could look outside and they could defend their city. Okay. In Mohenjo-daro, we can see in many cities and Mohenjo-daro, there were craft workshops, or the archaeologists excavated many crafts workshops from the Indus Valley cities such as Mohenjo-daro. From Mohenjo-daro also there were many craft workshops unearthed. That means there existed craft workshops in the Indus Valley cities. The remains of such craft workshops were unearthed from the Indus Valley cities, especially from Mohenjo-daro. Okay, so the meaning of the word Mohenjo-daro. What's the meaning of Mohenjo-daro? You know, Mohenjo-daro is a Sindhi word which means, it's a combination of three words. Mohen or Mon means the dead, Jo meaning of, and Daro meaning tomb. The Mohenjo-daro ruins lie in Lakhana district of the Sindh province of Pakistan. So the word Mohenjo-daro means mound of the dead, and it is now, it's a Pakistan. Mohenjo-daro is in Pakistan now. Okay, Lakhana district of Pakistan. The Mohenjo-daro is situated. Clear, children? So now we are discussing about the citadel, the two parts of the Indus Valley cities. Okay, there were two parts in the Indus Valley cities, the citadel and the lower city. You know, the citadel means a fort in the high ground of a city. Fort in the high ground of a city is called a citadel. So the two parts of the Indus Valley city. So in the west there were citadel and in the east there were lower city. And the citadel was surrounded by the lower city. Okay, citadel was surrounded by the lower city. What's the meaning of citadel? It's a fort in a high ground of a city. Okay, and people could go there in times of attack. Clear, children? So people could go to the citadel in times of attack. So there were two parts in the Indus Valley city, citadel and the lower city. Citadel was constructed in a raised platform, in an elevated platform or a high platform made of mud and bricks. This citadel was built or constructed in a raised platform made of mud and bricks. There were so many important buildings in the citadel, such as public buildings, granaries, baths and quarters of important persons. All were situated in the citadel. All such constructions were there in the citadel, and the citadel was protected by a wall. A very strong wall was constructed to protect the citadel, and that wall surrounded the citadel. The wall had notches of holes through which people could look outside in times of attack. Okay, you know that the fort in the high ground of a city is called the citadel. There the people could go in times of attack or invasion from outside. So here also there were notches in the protective walls of the citadel through which people could look outside and they could defend the city. Okay, and from the citadel and from the lower city of Mohenjo-daro, craft workshops, the remains of craft workshops were available. Clear, children? So craft workshops, remains of craft workshops. Remains of craft workshops were available both from the citadel and from the lower city of Mohenjo-daro. Clear? So there existed different types of crafts in the Indus Valley cities, and you know the remains of craft workshops were available both from the citadel and the lower city of the Indus Valley site known as Mohenjo-daro. You know the meaning of Mohenjo-daro is Mount of the Dead. It is given, a box is given in your page number 21. You can see it. I will read it for you. The Sindhi word Mohenjo-daro means Mount of the Dead. It is a combination of three Sindhi words: Mon meaning dead, Jo meaning of, and Daro meaning tomb. The Mohenjo-daro ruins lie in Larkana district of the Sindh province of Pakistan. Clear, children? So now we discussed about the citadel. I hope that this topic is clear to you. Okay, only you have to remember which are the two parts of the Indus Valley cities, citadel and the lower city. As you know, citadel is constructed on a raised platform made of mud and bricks. It's a fort. Citadel is a fort which is constructed in a high platform or a high ground. Okay, where people would go in times of invasion. And you know that many buildings were constructed within the citadel, and such buildings like public buildings, granaries, baths and quarters of important personalities or important persons were constructed within the citadel. The citadel was surrounded by a protective wall. A strong wall was constructed to protect this citadel, and this wall had notches or holes through which people could look outside in times of invasion. And you know that this lower city surrounded the citadel. Clear, children? So there were two parts in the Indus Valley cities, the citadel and the lower city. Now it's clear to you what is the meaning of fort and also which were the important constructions in the citadel. And you also learned that there was a protective wall around the citadel, and there were remains of many craft workshops in the citadel and the lower city of Mohenjo-daro. You also learned that Mohenjo-daro is a Sindhi word which means Mound of the Dead. So what's the meaning of Mohenjo-daro? Mound of the Dead. Mound of the Dead. So Mohenjo-daro is a Sindhi word which means Mound of the Dead. Dear children, now this topic is clear and you should read it well. You should learn each and every topic at your home. You should read your book carefully. You should write all these important points in your copies and read them. That may help you to understand the topic clearly. Okay children, thank you and have a nice day.